The Champions League T20 was an ambitious tournament which wanted to emulate the very famous UEFA Champions League of football and revolutionize cricket. Filled with cricket superstars from all around the world, had the best of T20 cricket franchises and also offered the highest prize money ever in cricket at that time. Sounds pretty great, right? But then, why did it stop after merely 6 seasons? So back in 2007, when the IPL was first announced, subsequently the plan of having a Champions League in cricket was also revealed. The Champions League was run by cricket boards of India, Australia and South Africa, although 50% of the ownership belonged to India. So obviously the league would have teams from these 3 countries, but it also featured teams from Pakistan, West Indies, England and Sri Lanka. Basically from all the major cricket playing nations at that time. And all these teams were fighting against each other for a prize of $2 million.
Okay, good. What's the problem?
Well, there was a plenty of them. Where do I start? The basic problem was that it just couldn't garner enough interest amongst the fans, and it had a lot of reasons behind it. The league would only feature 10 teams, which meant it left out teams from certain countries quite often. Just because the boards of South Africa, India and Australia ran the tournament, their best teams qualified directly. But for countries such as Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, New Zealand and Pakistan as well, they would have to undergo qualifying rounds, and so many times their teams won't be able to make it, which would eliminate a huge chunk of fans coming from those countries. To add salt to the wounds, the league went from featuring 2 IPL teams to 4 in one season. So basically 40% of the teams in the supposed World Championship of domestic T20 franchises were from India. Now you'd wonder why this was being done. And it's not because BCCI owned 50% of the rights. Well, maybe it is, but I guess it's something you can't even blame the organizers for. More than 90% of cricket's global viewers come from the Indian subcontinent, and CLT20's global viewership mostly comprised of the Indian viewers. The fans from outside of India were already bored of the dominance of India in this league. Be it in the sponsorship or the teams competing, there was just too much of India. So much so that 4 out of 6 seasons were organized in India. The television viewership was dipping rapidly any which ways because of this, and instead of having a home and away format like the UCL would have, it chose to conduct all of its matches in India except for the 2 seasons when it was held in South Africa, which cancelled out the chances of earning good enough gate revenue as well. The best of ticket sales were only happening in the matches featuring the IPL teams, but for a match between, say, a New Zealand-based cricket franchise and another small franchise from Sri Lanka, there were little to no spectators in the stadium. I mean, even the fans from South Africa won't have much to look forward to in the games featuring their teams because all their national cricket superstars were playing for an IPL team instead. And that brings me to my next point, the most controversial rule of all. So for all those who don't know, unlike football and cricket, you can play for 2 or more different franchises from different leagues around the world in the same year. For example, an Andre Russell can play for KKR in the IPL during the month of May and then go to play in the BBL for Sydney Thunders a few months later. And this is because the leagues in cricket are significantly shorter in time period as compared to football. So it was inevitable for a case to pop up where a player playing for 2 different teams sees both of them featuring in the league. And that meant he had to make a decision on playing for any one of those 2. And in most cases, the preference went towards the IPL teams, quite simply because they offered more money. But even in cases where a player preferred to play for his home team, he could not, because some IPL teams use certain rules to their advantage. For example, IPL was the only league out of all to have a clause regarding the CLT20 in their player contracts. And that obligated the player to play for that IPL franchise even if he would have wanted to play for some other side. And at the end, the fans from other countries would be denied the opportunity to see their national big players playing for one of their teams against some top team from another country. Now with the low TRPs, it might have seemed the right decision to include more Indian teams, but on the longer run it really wasn't, because their inclusion meant the exclusion of some teams from other countries. For example, in 2014, not a single team from England had featured. I mean seriously, no teams from a country where cricket was basically born. And that somewhere even took away the uniqueness of the tournament. It had almost become like a mini IPL of sorts, or an IPL 2.0 where instead of 8 you get 4 IPL teams. Eventually, even the Indian fans had started to lose interest in the format, since even they had signed up for watching how their team would play against the best team from another country, not for watching the same matchup they had already watched twice or thrice earlier that year. And thanks to all these reasons, the organizers had faced enough to make the decision of finally stopping it. So is it ever going to come back? Maybe not. Should you like this video and subscribe to the channel? Why not?